aspirants, welcome to S2N IAS Academy current affairs course. In this video, we are going to discuss about some current affairs aspects based on Indian polity. It's me, V. Ravikant Sharma, faculty in S2N IAS. Yeah, the first current affair will be the Indian Constitution as a living document. In this lecture, I would like to share you the different dimensions from the judiciary point of view, executive point of view, and the legislature point of view, including the current affairs issue and static things. I would like to prove Indian Constitution as a living document. In this slide, you can observe the three images, the three beautiful images. The first image, living by its ideals, an article in a famous English All India newspaper, Indian Express, by our Honorable Speaker of Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla. And here we can see the constitution document. And this is a very, very valuable image. The time of enactment of the constitution. These are the framers of our Indian constitution. Yeah. For this lecture, I would like to refer which part of the syllabus we are going to deal. In prelims point of view, it will be under the paper 1 general studies, Indian polity and governance. It also involves the events of current affairs of national and international importance. In this article, we are not only comparing only the Indian constitution, but also we are examining the different constitutions across the world, and we are proving Indian constitution as a living document here. And in mains point of view, it will comes under GS2 constitution and polity. In the syllabus mentioned here, Indian Constitution, historical underpinnings, evolution, features. In evolution part, there are n number of judgments we are quoting here, and also very, very important legislations of the recent time. Also, we are going to discuss about some features of the Constitution and constitutional amendments, significant provisions, and basic structure. I would like to take a few references which are supporting this lecture. One is from the class 11 NCERT textbook of the polity, Indian Constitution at Work. The NCERT link also I have given here. And news article is based on the 13th February 2023, The Hindu. The spirit of the law lies in the dissenting judgment. For judiciary point of view analysis, I am taking this. And for static point of view, I am taking this as the reference. We can expect some static as well as dynamic questions for the mains of UPSC civil service examination, as well as some local state government PCS examinations like Group 1. Explain how Indian Constitution is indeed a living document. This is the question number 1. And in question number 2, various judgments of the Supreme Court in recent decades strengthen the paradigm that the Indian Constitution is a living document. We need to substantiate. Don't worry about the substantiation. I will give you enough number of the examples in the substantiation portion. The keywords will be the judiciary, living document, Indian Constitution, Dawoodi Bohra community, etc., etc. Yeah. First, we would like to present the dynamic nature of the Indian Constitution. To understand the dynamism of the Indian Constitution, we would like to see the international scenario. Suppose the concept of rewriting the existing constitution or replacing the constitution or making a new constitution is common across the world. Even from our childhood till the recent times, like 2015, Nepal, our neighboring country, changed their constitution in 6 different occasions across the timeline. In Soviet Union itself, the constitution was changed many times. Not only Nepal, not only Soviet Union, in many African countries, Middle Asian countries, etc., etc. The change of constitution will be observed whenever the regime change from civilian government to military government. Even in Burma, our neighborhood country, when the government changed from civilian form to military form, the constitution automatically changes. But India is the live example. Our own country, from last couple of decades, there is no civil war. There is no proposal to change the constitution. Yes, we are making some changes from time to time in the name of amendments, but there is no resentment. There is no civil war. There is no unrest with respect to our constitution because of the dynamic nature of the constitution. Yes, our constitution is changing according to the time by accommodating the needs of the society. There are 2 reasons for that. the broad vision of the our legendary Constitution Assembly members at the time of independence, 1940s, 1950s, is a one reason, and the accommodative and dynamic nature of the Constitution, and the always awakening, always alarming, and always a nation conscious judiciary, strong independent judiciary is the one more reason. So strong judiciary, strong legislative, and broad vision of the making of the Constitution framers is the reasons for the dynamic nature of the Indian Constitution, which is making it as a living document. Both the political will as well as judicial rulings showing the maturity of the democracy and making this constitution as a living document. And many famous executives like Mr. T.N. Seshan, who is a sincere officer, sincere bureaucrat. So from executive point of view, judiciary point of view, and from the legislature point of view, the three organs are working together to make our constitution as a living document and showing the mature fruits of the Indian constitution to the rest of the world. The process of amendment making is very meaningful, and the dynamism of the constitutional and rational thinking also a reflection of the constitution. So the amendment process is making our constitution protected from unnecessary and frequent changes of the constitution. This is the reason behind Indian constitution and its importance, its significance, its value across the globe. The constitutional provisions, these are making our constitution as a dynamic constitution. For suppose if you take Article 368, which enables for the constitution amendment, we have three types of constitution amendment are there in issues like creating a new states or changing the name of a state and or boundaries under Article 2, 3. A simple majority is enough to change the constitution. Suppose Telangana became the 29th state of India by the AP Reorganization Act of 2014. For that, a simple majority in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and assent of the president is enough. But if you take the constitutional amendment like GST, 2/3 of the majority required in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, with at least 50% of the state assemblies consent along with the consent of the president of the India. In some issues like impeachment of a president or vice president and some other constitutional amendments, the absolute majority is required. Till now, 126 times the constitutional amendment bills were presented in the Indian Parliament, but 104 times only they become reality. So from this we can understand at least 20 bills were not coming to the reality of constitutional amendment because of n number of reasons. Our legislative will, the deliberations, the discussions in our legislations, and also our parliamentary committees, the scrutiny of judiciary. So n number of protective checks and balances are there to eradicate the unnecessary changes of the constitution. So whatsoever the changes, the societal changes, the changes across the globe, which are suitable to the Indian constitution, only become to the reality like constitutional amendment bills. And the unnecessary changes are successfully prevented by the checks and balances existing in our constitution. These are the recent constitutional amendment bills from 2015 to 2020, like land boundary agreement between India and Bangladesh, the 70 years of the problem, the small enclaves across the West Bengal and the Bangladesh side, with this historical and significant agreement, the 100th Constitutional Amendment make it the reality. If you take the 101 Constitutional Amendment Act, it's related to GST and NCBC, National Commission for Backward Classes, to achieve the social economic justice. The Constitutional Amendment to 102nd Act become reality. To address the problem of economic deprivation, students from the economic weaker sections also getting 10% of the reservation in the education and employment from 2019 by 103rd Amendment Act of 2019. The reservation for SC/ST community, dear aspirants, still majority of the SC/STs across the India are facing discrimination. So to eradicate that, to lessen the pain of SC/ST communities, Government of India extended the provision in the name of Constitutional Amendment Act 2020 with the number of 104. So diverse items are there, land bound agreement, which is related directly or indirectly related to the sovereignty of the country, the goods and services tax for the economic justice of the country, the National Commission for Backward Classes, reservations, economically weaker sections for socio-economic justice of the country. In this manner, our legislature, our parliament is working relentlessly to make the spirit of the constitution into reality. Here, in recent times, we observed this news in the current affairs. The excommunication tradition in the Dawoodi Bohra community is referred to 9-judge bench. It's very, very larger bench. As the September 28th, 2018 Sabarimala case 9-bench judgment, the same 9-bench judgment will be going to take up the excommunication, means literally social boycott of a few persons in the Bohra community. It is a Shia Muslim community. The major portion of this community is still existing in India. Nearly 1 million people are there from this community. The head of the community or the priest of the community is having a right called excommunicating or expelling one member from the community for doing some sinful actions or doing some actions against their community rules. So that was challenged several times in the previous decades. Finally, the ball is in the court of Supreme Court, which will be dealing this issue with 9-judge bench. So who are Dawoodi Bohras and what is meant by excommunication? We already discussed. 1 million population is there. For over 400 years, the leader of the community has been based in India. That's why it become important in issues of national and international issues, because it is related to India, including the current and 53rd leader, His Holiness Dr. Saidna Mufaddal Saifuddin. Pardon me if my pronunciation is wrong. Dr. Saidna Mufaddal Saifuddin, the leader of the community, having the right to excommunicate its members, recognized by the members of the Bohra community. The meaning of excommunication, the literal meaning, the dictionary meaning is not being allowed to access mosques belonging to the community or burial ground to the community. The mosque, the burial ground, the community hall, etc., projects will be restricted to the person who has been excommunicated by the head of the community. However, this practice was prevented by the 1949 Act of the Bombay State, 1949, November 1st, Bombay Prevention of Excommunication Act. However, it was repealed, which sought to prevent the practice of excommunication practice of Bohra Muslim community. The excommunication led to deprivation of legitimate rights and privileges of its members. I already told, burial grounds, mosques, community halls, etc., and keeping in the spirit of changing times in public interest as per the law of Bombay Act of 1949. Hence, the law invalidated the excommunication of any member, notwithstanding anything contained in the law, custom, usage for the time being in force. So in law, it was clearly mentioned the time being in the force, the excommunication practice was restricted or banned. So meanwhile, it went, the matter reached the Supreme Court. The 51st leader, right now, the 53rd leader is assuming the power of Bohra community leader. In 1949 or 1960s, it was the 51st leader of the community, Sardar Saidana Tahar Saifuddin Sahib, challenged the constitutional validity of the act under Article 25 and 26. These two articles, aspirants, all of you know, these two articles are related to freedom of the religion. It was submitted to the Supreme Court that power of excommunication was the part and parcel of the management of the community affairs in the matters of the religion. The practice was claimed to be essential practice of Dawoodi Bohra faith. So, dear aspirants, as per Supreme Court, as per Indian highest judiciary, essential practices means some features will be there. There should be continuity, there should be historical evidence, there should be some moral or some principle behind the act, and there should be wider acceptance within the community. So likewise, 4 to 6 rules were there which will determine the essential practice of any religion. Under the essential practice of Dawoodi Bohra faith, the 51st leader of the community reached the Supreme Court of India. So the judgment in 1962 is in favor of the Dai's position, the community leader's position. The Supreme Court observed that the expulsion or excommunicate practice is to enforce discipline among the members of the community. It is not a punishment. So the court upheld the practice of excommunication in the Bohra community. It was dated to 1962. But dear aspirants, it was challenged again, and the challenging petition was filed in 1986. And after that, Maharashtra Protection of People from Social Boycott Act 2016 was passed. Under this, many other forms of social boycott, including excommunication, was banned. A group of persons and terms its violation of the fundamental rights. The Act describes social boycott as inhuman and defines 16 types of social boycott, including preventing members of community from access to facilities, including community halls, burial grounds, etc., which we already discussed a couple of times in the previous slides. In response to the challenge to the 1962 judgment, 1986 a petition was filed. Now the matter is referred to the 9-bench constituted to the Lok Sabha at the Sabarimala judgment. As like the Sabarimala judgment, this case also will be handed over to the 9-bench judges of the Supreme Court. Yes, friends, you can observe the 3 interesting images along with the Bohra community case. The cases which were already solved, already decided by the Supreme Court, you can take them as the example of Constitution as a living document. This is the Keshwananda Bharati case of 1970s, and this is the Shabano case of 1985, and this is the Vishaka guidelines case of Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan. I am placing these images in order to easily remember the 3 examples if you are going to write or if you are going to prove our Constitution as a living document in the point of judiciary. So in Keshwananda Bharati case of 1973, every UPSC aspirant who is having minimum basic knowledge of the Indian polity subject knows about the Keshwananda Bharati case of 1973, first constitutional amendment, 9th schedule, etc. In this case, the famous basic structure doctrine was evolved from His Highness, His Lordship, the Supreme Court of the India. Their lordships invented a concept called basic structure of doctrine to prevent the principles of foundational principles of the Indian Constitution as well as the fundamental rights of the citizens. In Shabano case of 1985, which is related to the maintenance to the Muslim women, court expressed sorry state about the Muslim women in India, and it asked the government of India to take care of the Muslim women in terms of maintenance. But unfortunately, the issue went other side of the dimension. In 1990s, famous Vishaka case, the Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan case, gives us the fruits of a law against sexual harassment of women in workplace. In Union Parliament in 2013, a strong and stringent law was came with the inspiration of the Vishaka case. In 2010, Supreme Court in Reliance Industries case, their aspirants gave a wonderful observation that government control over natural resources overrode private agreements. So the court is with the dedication to execute the agreements between government and private individuals. So government control over natural resources overrode private agreements. This was the observation of Supreme Court. In 9-bench judgment of famous Futta Swami judgment, the court unanimously gave a verdict to recognize right to privacy as the fundamental rights. Dear aspirants, after this verdict, the unnecessary usage of Aadhaar card for n number of purposes are restricted only for the sake of opening bank accounts and a few government schemes. The Aadhaar card is being used, and many more protections like some QR codes and only sharing basic information out of the Aadhaar card details etc., etc. We are observing many changes with respect to privacy. Even in recent present government's data protection bill also giving highest priority to the person's privacy. In Shaira Bano case 2017, once again the issue of Muslim women and their rights was touched, and triple talaq became a criminal offense and unconstitutional. Similarly, government also came up with a triple talaq legislature. So many landmark verdicts reflect the underlying changes in the society. This works better than originalism, a popular approach in the United States that had led to indefensible laxity in firearm of proliferation. So dear aspirants, be it United States, be it Nepal, be it Russia, be it any other country, but Indian Constitution is a living is a example of living document by its vibrant judiciary system and dynamic legislature and very committed and sincere executives. These three organs are working together to cater the needs of the public. Of course, there are some loopholes are there, some negatives are some disadvantages, some negative shades also there. But being a future bureaucrats, being a civil service aspirant, we need to understand our different dimensions of our constitution, which is making it as a living document. Yeah, this is Ravikant Sharma from Team S2N IAS Academy. I wish you all the best, and we will come up with more current affairs in future. Thank you.